All right, for beginning investors, my two recommended strategies are the nomad method, which I use myself, and then house hacking, which I also use myself. These are great strategies to get into investing in real estate and then to start slowly building up your portfolio. Today, we're going to talk about house hacking. We're going to get into what properties work the best for house hacking, different strategies on the buy side that you can use, buy boxes, and so much more. My name is Taylor Dasch. I am a local realtor here in Temple. If you guys are thinking about investing in Temple, please reach out to me. I love working with investors. I'm gonna get you set up. All right, let's get into this video. So first, what is house hacking? So house hacking is whenever you purchase a property and then you somehow rent the property out while you are still living in it. There's a bunch of different ways to do that, and we're gonna talk about them. Maybe you're renting out one side of a duplex, maybe you're renting a room, maybe you're renting an additional dwelling unit. There's a lot of ways to go about it. And the biggest thing that I tell people is the goal does not have to be live for free. And a lot of the times that is not how house hacking works with the current real estate market that we're in right now. You get a lot of other benefits from it. So first of all, you're acquiring properties, you're learning property management, you're gaining that appreciation. The appreciation is the best way to build your wealth in real estate, because you're appreciating off of the total price of the home, not what you put into it. And then most importantly is whenever you move out, it should at least break even or cash flow. And I'm talking break even with CapEx, with vacancy, with all that taken into account. Now, there are some obstacles to acquiring this because you're not putting that much down if it's your primary residence, which we're going to get into. But first, let's talk about the target property. So what does it need? Number one, and I'm telling you this based off of experience, you have to be able to live in the property. So one thing that I see with the duplexes and quadplexes is if they're fully occupied, you can't move into the property. Your lender is going to notice that and they're not gonna let you buy the property. And then number two, if it's a dump and you're living with your parents in $1 million home or renting a really nice home, you are not gonna be able to live in that property. I'm telling you, it's harder. If you think about it, it's like I can probably do this, but whenever you're actually doing it, it's a lot harder than it is in your mind. The negative with that is if you do that and then you decide, I can't do this. Well, now you can either sell a property or you can rent it out, but you're not going to get those benefits. The key with the house hacking is that you have to intend to occupy it. So technically you could still do that if you intended to occupy it, you just don't like the property and you move out. And then to add on to that, if you're living in a tiny little house and your strategy for house hacking is rent out one of the rooms, you're in a 2-bedroom and 1 bathroom and you're sharing a bathroom with somebody, does that really make sense to you? If it does, that's totally fine. A lot of, especially younger people, that do that, no problem. I wouldn't want to do that. And then here's what I would recommend as far as the target property goes. Do some research on the market. What is going to cash flow whenever you get out of it? Like for Bell County, for example, if you get a duplex around below 250, maybe 265, you're probably gonna be able to at least break even whenever you move out, depending on how much you put down. Now, you don't wanna buy a large single family home in Temple that costs $350,000 with a plan on doing long-term renting out the rooms, because it's probably not gonna work. So make an advised decision on what your target property is, build a buy box, whether it be for the property or for the location, and then start looking into that. And you have to build out your plan for this house hack. So, which leads me into the next point, and that is, can you finance the plan and the property? So what I see a lot of military members do this. They love house hacking. I work with a lot of military members who they want a house hack. I think it's a great strategy for a military member. The issue with that is that they're using a VA loan. So you have to purchase a property that at least passes the VA guidelines. You're not gonna be able to purchase something like in the Killeen Harker Heights area that's under like $175,000 because the VA is not going to finance that property. And that's just the way it is. It's not even an option. Are there some exceptions to that? Yeah, you can sometimes find a property around that price point that will go VA. So research the market and then make sure the numbers work on something that is financeable. And for the VA, you're going to have to get something between 1 and 4 units. Anything above that is technically commercial. Speaking on the financing, your lender is going to be able to use some of the rental income from the property to help qualify you for this property. Typically, they use around 75% of the rent. And then more importantly, does the full monthly number work for you or work as an investment property? Because if you're putting 0 to 5% down, it's going to be a lot harder to find an investment property that's going to work as far as cash flow goes whenever you move out. That's the biggest obstacle. So let's talk about that. How can you get into something that with, little down and make the numbers work? So you need to be the lower edge of the price point that works. For example, in Temple, it's gonna be around like $195,000 on a duplex. Or you can find a duplex for $195,000 that will go VA financing, but you're going to have to wait for that property to come on the market. You're going to have to maybe make some exceptions in your criteria, bend your criteria possibly as far as what you're willing to take. But they do come up. So with the interest rates right now, that's kind of where we're at. Now, what I recommend is wait for a duplex. If you're in Temple, wait for a duplex right by the hospital. They're brick, slab duplexes, 2-1s, live in one side and then do a midterm rental out of the other. And you're gonna be okay. You move out and you're gonna get most of your mortgage covered while you're there. And listen, if you work with me, I'm going to get you set up. I don't even look really at what they're leased out for. I think that they're probably lying or they're not paying or something. I get you actual rental numbers that you can trust that you can get the property rented out for. Now, if you're in Killeen, I'm gonna do an example on Killeen, Harker Heights area because this is the biggest one that I see for looking to house hack. In Killeen, Harker Heights, the duplexes, especially the newer duplexes, they really are a terrible investment. You're looking at $350,000 plus on the purchase side. If you put, almost no money down on, you're gonna be negative on the cash flow. Killeen and Harker Heights works best for house hackers whenever you're looking at a 1980s plus quadplex. The lowest qualifiable purchase price on these is probably gonna be around 280,000-ish. I would look at 300,000 to 330,000. The numbers at 330 are gonna be tight. These are verified from the MLS, and this is what I would recommend. If you're looking at Bell County, if you're in the military, if you are, as young as looking to start growing a portfolio, I would say in terms of efficiency, the Killeen Harker Heights quadplex is going to be the best route. The units are going to be between 800 to 1,000 per month. With the purchase price and interest rates, the numbers seem to work a lot better than the duplexes in Temple, unless you do a midterm rental. Then you want to think about, do the numbers actually work? A lot of people they'll say, okay, my payment is it's going to bring in this amount of rent. The numbers work. But especially if you're in Killeen or Harker Heights, you need to plan out a vacancy. You need to plan out somebody not paying rent. These things do happen and will happen. So make sure you plan for all the numbers. CapEx, you may need a new roof. You may have an insurance claim with a deductible. There may be something that goes wrong. And if it were me, I almost assume that it's definitely gonna go wrong almost immediately because that's what's happened, So you just have planning for these things. You have to run the numbers for you. If a $5,000 hit is gonna sink you, you have to take account. Maybe you definitely don't want to buy anything that could possibly need a new roof or a new AC or something like that because now it's done. Speaking on that, side note, if the inspections are super important on these older builds, if they're in the inspection that is big, such as the roof, such as the AC, the foundation, anything. One of the options that I like to do is say, look, you're priced, maybe they're priced already with that taken into account. What I would do is say, hey, we'll increase the purchase price. Just file a claim for the roof and get us a new roof. We'll increase the purchase price for more than the claim. Because typically you're gonna be at between $2,000 to $100 out of pocket on a new roof. So you can give the seller $7,000 and now you don't have to pay $16,000 for a new roof on a quadplex. So that's always, an option. Let's say you have a property, you have to pay, just say $10,000 for a new roof. Then the property is cash flowing, let's say $1,000 per year. You've now eliminated a full 10 years of cash flow on this property. Yeah, and you have principal pay down, you have appreciation and stuff like that, but that's a huge hit. I mean, that will mess up all the numbers for the property right there. So very important to keep that in mind, and that goes with any investing in real estate. All right, and then lastly, I want to touch on the strategies that you can use. So we'll start off with the smallest first. So the smallest would be, let's say you get a single family home and you have to really work the strategy with the location, with the home. If you have a single family home that's small, that's super luxurious, it may be best to rent out a room. Did my first house hack, I actually rented out my master bedroom so that they could have the bathroom attached. I was the lowest price on Airbnb, Superhost, or like, I was on Airbnb for a year, and some months I would pay my full mortgage from Airbnb. Because eventually, whenever I got the Superhost, I said, oh no, I'm gonna increase the price. Whenever you're Superhost, at least whenever I was doing it, you show up first, and then you get more bookings, obviously. So you're gonna make more money. You're gonna be rented out more, less vacancy. So I did that a lot. The downside of that is, it's just you. It's probably fine if you're a younger guy, but if you're living with somebody else and they're not on the same path as you, they're gonna not be happy. Keep that in mind. Now, let's say you don't want to do that. Well then, a more kind of long-term steady option, and this as well, is put a room on Furnish Finder. Have you on one side of the house, them on the other side of the house, and you can pull, I was renting mine out for like $750 per month. I would say a safe number would be like $600 to $700 per month. That would be my first decision now, is because you're gonna get likely a medical professional who's living with you. And after that, I would go the roommate route, just somebody who needs a cheap room, maybe $600 per month. The issue with that is you're kind of committing yourself to a roommate, which I don't think I would do right now. But if you're younger and you want to have a roommate anyway, I think it's a great strategy. Rent out the room. You can either put that towards the principal, you can save it, you can start building up towards savings for the next property, stuff like that, and it's really a huge benefit. Now, if you get a duplex, you got to be careful with the duplexes. That's the least in Bell County, in my opinion. The safest route is going to be a long-term rental. Get them in there. I would just want to make sure, like, hey, at least get half the mortgage covered. That way, whenever you move out, be at least breaking even. I like the idea of doing a midterm rental, especially in Temple. Live on one side, do a midterm rental in the other. The stays are normally, 2 all the way up to 6 months. And really, I've had them in there for a year, honestly. So you never know. And then if you really are social and you really have some time to manage, you could rent by the room on everything. You could rent by the room on the side that you're living in, and then the other side as well. The issue with that is people are inevitably going to complain. They're going to get mad at each other. There's somebody, stole somebody's food. I wouldn't want to be bothered by that. For the quadplexes, I have never done this, but I think the best idea for the most return on your money with the least amount of risk is going to be, you live in one unit, you rent out 2 units as a long-term rental, and then you do a midterm rental on the 4th unit right below and next to you on the bottom. I think that's a great strategy. You could also just do long-term rental. You want to make sure that the numbers are working as a long-term rental. Never analyze a property with midterm rental numbers, because you don't know. You may have a high vacancy. You never know. I don't have high vacancies in my midterm rentals. House hacking is great for people who are getting started out. You're gonna learn a lot about managing the property. You're gonna learn about tenant selection. You're going to learn about possibly rehab, stuff like that. And it's great. It's not for everybody. Listen, if you're thinking about house hacking in the Bell County area, please reach out to me. I'm working with investors just like you every single day. You can call me, you can text me, you can email me, schedule an appointment down below my Calendly. I hope y'all enjoy this video. Let's get